right now on Upfront.
Tax time.
And these are average, hardworking people in our state that'll benefit from our tax cut.
Republicans on the State Budget Committee unveiling their tax cut and public school funding plan as lawmakers race toward the July 1st deadline. Democrats demanding more funding for public schools.
I'm asking lawmakers to remember kids like Maya.
This as the state party gathers this weekend for their annual convention, the attention turning to 2026. With us this Sunday, Democratic State Senator Kelda Roys. WisPolitics' J.R. Ross with the new numbers. Growing threats.
Certainly the threats weren't a good thing.
Threats targeting lawyers, judges, and justices across Wisconsin. The push for more resources, and now the national spotlight on Milwaukee County. The high-profile arrest of Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. With us, Milwaukee County Chief Judge Carl Ashley. Based on these conversations, do you think the arrest could have been prevented? The new soon-to-be-announced policy and his new meeting with federal ICE officials. Original Sin.
What everyone saw in public was much worse behind the scenes.
The bombshell book documenting former President Joe Biden's quest for re-election and his decline. Now the new congressional investigation launching, the book's co-author Alex Thompson with the revelations.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. The horrific developments coming out of Minnesota this weekend, the assassination of the state's top Democrat in the House and others shot, we're continuing to monitor as Wisconsin Democrats hold their state convention in Wisconsin Dells, now with increased security. In Minnesota, two shootings early Saturday morning just miles apart. Authorities first finding Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife shot and wounded in the couple's home. Responding officers then went to check on House Democratic leader Melissa Hortman and her husband, who live nearby. That's where police say they encountered a person coming out of Hortman's home dressed as an officer. Then they say the suspect started shooting, exchanging gunfire with the real police before getting away. A fake police car parked in the driveway, inside a list of potential targets, including many lawmakers. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Saturday morning.
My good friend and colleague, Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, were shot and killed early this morning in what appears to be a politically motivated assassination. Our state lost a great leader, and I lost a dearest of friends. Speaker Hortman was someone who served the people of Minnesota with grace, compassion, humor, and a sense of service.
Wisconsin State Senate President Republican Mary Felskowski in a statement Saturday, "We cannot tolerate political violence in our country, and those who commit such heinous acts must be held fully accountable. My prayers are with the families of both legislators, and I thank the first responders and those currently working to find the individual who committed these crimes. These actions will not be taken lightly," she says, "and the safety of all of my colleagues, both Democrat and Republican, is of utmost importance." As we mentioned, Wisconsin Democrats are in the Dells this weekend, now under increased security at their convention. Speakers like Senator Tammy Baldwin, Governor Tony Evers addressing Minnesota, the governor calling it senseless political violence. All this as state lawmakers do continue their work on the state budget this weekend. We talked with Democratic State Senator Kelda Roys, a member of the State Budget Committee, Friday before the shootings in Minnesota. You just heard the governor say that he does not want to veto a budget. Would you like him to sign what is coming from the Republican-controlled legislature at this point?
Well, absolutely not at this point. Republicans have just taken a budget that underfunds our children, shorts our schools by $1 billion, and raises property taxes. And to me, we cannot continue this disastrous cycle of forcing local property taxpayers to raise their own taxes just to help their schools keep the lights on.
Speaker Voss was on the show last week and talking about the tax cut plan that the governor had agreed to if Republicans would have agreed to some more spending. Here's how the speaker characterized the tax cuts. Take a listen quick. What was the tax cut that was agreed upon?
Well, the Republicans in the Assembly have always, and we're going to still work on this, it's going to hopefully be in the budget that goes to Governor Evers. We believe that tax relief should be in the middle class, and we also believe that it should be something that's focused on retirees, keeping more people here in Wisconsin.
And in terms of the middle class, what did that look like?
That'd be changing the tax bracket, so basically more people would be taxed at a lower rate.
So the governor said he would agree to these tax cuts, even though he doesn't necessarily like how they may be rolled out. What should he do at this point?
Well, he should veto them because the Republicans walked away from the deal. He said, I will agree to this if you agree that we need to fund our kids, that our kids deserve better schools, that we need childcare, we need funding for higher education. The Republicans said, no, forget it. We're walking away. And, based on that, I don't see why the governor should entertain their priorities when they were unwilling to give our kids what they need.
Are Republicans going to need Democratic votes in the state Senate to pass this?
Well, it's hard to see how they can pass a budget with just their own caucus. They've got a lot of really intransigent members who, if they could, they'd probably press a button and eliminate our public schools. So I think at some point they're going to have to come to Democrats for votes. Our doors are open. We've said many times we are willing to sit down and negotiate with them. And so far, my phone is quiet. My door is silent.
What would it take for you to get to a yes?
Well, I think every Democratic senator is a no right now, and we are going to decide as a group what it's going to take. But I cannot vote for a budget that leaves our youngest Wisconsinites behind, that doesn't put funding into the University of Wisconsin. And we need to be talking about healthcare too. We're going to see devastating cuts to the health insurance safety net from the federal Republicans, and Wisconsin needs to be able to protect our people.
Amidst all this, Democrats gathering for the state convention in the Dells this weekend. Senator, you told Wisconsin Eye recently, when asked about whether Governor Evers should seek a third term, you said, quote, traditionally 2 terms have been plenty for a lot of Wisconsin governors, but he's going to decide what he wants to do. Do you want Governor Evers to run for a third term?
Well, he's going to make that decision, but I'm really excited for this weekend. I think the good news is that Democrats around the state are really, really energized. We see what is happening in this country. Republicans are trying to shred the social safety net so that they can give a tax break to the wealthiest. And we're in a great position. We've got a great bench, and we're going to be in wonderful shape to win majorities in 2026 and have a Democratic trifecta.
So you would like to see Governor Evers do what?
I'd like to see him make a decision, hopefully sooner rather than later, because I do think we've got a lot of elections that we need to be winning and focusing on. I talked to a lot of people who are going to be running for Senate, and I think, we're going to have a great 2026.
Should people be reading the tea leaves into your answer? They will be in terms of not fully saying the governor should seek a third term.
I mean, people should just hear my words. I think the Democratic Party is in great shape. If the governor makes a decision, I hope that's going to be soon. And I'm looking forward to being with my fellow Democrats this weekend.
If he did not run, would you consider a bid for governor?
Well, I'm really focused on building a majority in the state Senate. What I want to do is make sure that our kids get what they need. Our kids deserve better school. Our families need access to childcare. We need to be reinvesting in the universities of Wisconsin. Those are my priorities, and I'm going to make sure that we win the state Senate in 2026 so that we can have a budget that reflects the priorities and needs of our people.
A busy weekend and another busy week ahead. Democratic State Senator Kelda Roy. Senator, like always, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, let's bring in J.R. Ross, editor of our editorial partner, WisPolitics. All right, J.R., when you look at taxes and the education portion of all of this, what are Republicans attempting to do here?
They're trying to find a sweet spot where they can get a budget through their Republican caucuses because it's conservative enough, but also give Evers a little bit of heartburn about not signing this thing. So remember in Green Bay this past week, you said, it's in my DNA to sign the budget. I don't want to veto a thing. So how do you get there? How's the governor get there with not getting what he wants on education?
We just had Senator Kelda Roy on it, and she told us she thinks Democrats are going to be needed for this to pass the Senate. Do you think Democrats will be needed, or is that sweet spot found for Republicans?
That's to be determined. What's coming up with big things like Medicaid, for example, is another on the to-do list. UW system, but they're not right now. They are not looking for Democratic votes. The co-chairs of the Finance Committee, they are going for a Republican budget that puts Democratic Governor Tony Evers in a difficult position.
How much of whether the governor wants to seek re-election or not is going to play into what he ultimately signs or doesn't sign, or what decisions he makes?
Excellent question, especially with the education component. Remember, Governor Evers calls himself the education governor. That's been his focus, all along. If you look at this package, there's $336 million more for schools in Wisconsin. The governor proposed $3.3 billion. Okay, so they were way far apart. The interesting gamble here from Republicans is there's going to be, if this passes, as is, there would be an overall boost for schools between state aid and property taxes. But a big chunk of it, of the $1 billion roughly, would come off of property taxes. Republicans have obsessed about your property tax bill for years. They're making a calculation, though. Remember, Governor Evers in the last budget uses veto pen to extend for 4 centuries an annual increase in the cap on how much you spend on each kid between state aid and property taxes. They are betting that voters will blame Governor Evers and Democrats for the property tax bills going up if this becomes law as is. If they can pull it off, we'll see.
All right, to be continued. J.R. Rossiter of WisPolitics. J.R., thank you.
Anytime.
Coming up, threats targeting Wisconsin judges and the major spotlight after the arrest of Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. Milwaukee County Chief Judge Carl Ashley with us. His new conversation with federal immigration officials after that bombshell arrest. Next.